Welcome, welcome, everybody. Hi, it's me, not Nikki, doing the intro. Everybody knows I love doing intros.
I'm so proud of you.
I know. And today we have an amazing guest that I'm super hyped for. I think her content on anxiety is pristine and so fun, and I've loved following her. She's probably my favorite anxiety Instagram person. So whoop whoop, we have Michelle Cavanaugh here. Can you say hello, Michelle?
Hey, that's so nice to hear. Thank you. Hi, it's so nice to be here.
Yes, and Michelle, she is a licensed clinical social worker, and she has 20 years of experience working with anxiety in a bunch of different settings. And for the last 15 years, she's been a clinical advisor for the DARE program. And again, you want to tell me a little bit about that again and tell everybody a little bit about DARE and
how it's different from the one from the 90s that I remember growing up.
Oh, yes. Different from the 90s
it's
DARE.
Not substance abuse awareness program. It's not that. It's an acronym, stands for diffuse, allow, run towards, engage. It's an overall mindset shift in attitude approach towards anxiety. Barry McDonough is the creator. It started out as a book. He wrote a book to try and share his own experience to try and help other people. And it somehow turned into this big thing. There's really only 6 of us that work with DARE. To have, now there's a book, there's an app. We have, I think, over 1 million downloads at this point. We have some training programs and we offer one-to-one calls. We try and put out tons of free information out there, YouTube channel. It's kind of an upside-down approach to anxiety. If anybody's familiar with Claire Weeks, who kind of pioneered this mindset in the 60s, look her up. She's pretty cool. She was way ahead of her time. It's like that song from Stranger Things that wasn't popular in the 80s, and then it became popular way after.
Yeah, the Running Up the Hill, that one. Yeah,
that's Claire Weeks. And so she was kind of laughed at to this idea of not trying to get rid of anxiety. It's not the black smear in your brain. You don't do a whole lot of work to get rid of it. You sort of learn how to go into this. She uses the word float a lot, how to just sort of drop the tension and float and go with how you feel. And DARE is kind of like the modernish version of that.
Yeah, no, that's so awesome. And I know, I don't know if you know this, we haven't really talked about it too much, but I sort of went into the anxiety sphere postpartum. I had postpartum OCD, and I realized that I've had anxiety and OCD probably throughout my life. It just had never escalated to the point that it had postpartum wise. But Nikki and I, during that period, kept talking back and forth how it related to our patients and clients that we work with so much. And all the stuff I was learning was whoa, this really applies to a lot of people with IBS and gut issues, because whether there was anxiety preceding the gut stuff or maybe some anxiety that's come from the gut stuff,
right.
To me, it doesn't necessarily matter. But a lot of the things that people are doing once they have IBS really keeps them stuck and actually makes symptoms worse. And yeah, it just applies to our patients in so many ways. So again, it was just kind of an aha moment during my experience. I'm like, oh, this will help me a lot clinically. And I had never really viewed anxiety in that way, where it was kind of a level of acceptance or willingness to tolerate discomfort. And again, I think it's a totally different way. And I don't think a lot of people talk about anxiety in that way or have treated their own anxiety in that way, some traditional models. And maybe that's a good place to start too. Sometimes when people go to a therapist, and it might make their anxiety worse because they're doing certain things trying to fight the thought or engage with the thoughts or feelings more in some way. So we could start there too.
Or just understand it. I think that's a big part of it too, is everybody is, it seems like to me, I feel like everybody is so excited to psychoanalyze the thoughts and why do I have anxiety? Does it stem from a childhood trauma? Does it stem from a past life thing? Does it stem from this one time I was bullied? the seeking to understand the anxiety, I think sometimes keeps people stuck too.
And sometimes can be a maintaining factor of the disorder, especially the world of OCD. It's like I talk about anxiety and OCD as involvement disorders and doing disorders. So now we're in a heightened state, and now we're doing a lot to try and get rid of a heightened state. But your body comes out of a heightened state when it sees you stop doing, right? Your body sort of follows your lead. So oftentimes, like a traditional model of, let's talk more about it. Like two things, involvement. Let's talk more about it. Where do you think that comes from? The disorder is usually fueled by the why. Why is this happening? If I can just figure out why, I can solve the problem. And that's not problem solving, that's rumination. That's just going over the problem over and over again. And sometimes therapists can be another compulsive behavior. So like most of my work is anxiety, phobias, OCD, panic, things like that. But it doesn't mean like our worlds don't overlap. So we'll have a lot of members that have, let's say, like different versions of maybe autoimmune or chronic illnesses that don't have an end. There's a lot of symptom management, and sometimes like the beginning of that process, let's say digestive issues or dizzy or fatigue or something like that, you're actually experiencing those physical sensations. So just to be clear, right, that's actually happening in your body. And so sometimes the first thing people hear when an anxiety person comes on, it's like, are you saying it's all in my head? No, you're truly experiencing that feeling in your body, okay? And what I see happen in my world is that the thing that like attending to this particular thing was useful in the beginning, and what happens, it becomes almost like the obsession, the thing that we get latched into. And then this kind of almost becomes dizzy, let's say, becomes the O to the OCD-ish type cycle, where now we're taking all the supplements, doing all the Googling, doing all the things, keeping all the journals, how much food of everything I ate, what did I do to see if it worked, if I got rid of this problem. Right? And so whether it's digestive issues, whether it's physical things, whether it's thoughts, whether it's feelings, the thing that we get latched into, we think is the problem, but really it's the latch that's the problem, and the latch that we change at DARE with this approach.
Well, and we did an episode not that long ago about hypervigilance. And, I think one of the squirrely things that happens is like, we don't want to be completely oblivious to what's happening with our body or our mental health. And we kind of judge and shame and look down on that, right? Like in our world, in the nutrition space, this would be the equivalent of standard American person eating a standard American diet, and they have a giant bowl of pasta and a slice of bread, and then they crash afterwards, and they don't put two and two together that, like maybe that bucket of carbs with no vegetables, no protein, like maybe that affected me poorly.
Right.
So I think that in the nutrition space, there's a lot of like shame and judgment for the people who don't have any body awareness. And I don't think we want to be that far to the one extreme. But then I think that fosters this extreme awareness to the point of hypervigilance, where it's like, oh, every little gas bubble, every itch, like I've had people come to me and say, I think I have a mast cell disorder because I get a runny nose when I eat. That's probably a step too far, right? So it's finding that happy medium. And I feel like it's probably similar in your world. It's like, you don't want to be the person who clearly is super duper stressed or has gone through significant trauma, and you've like never ever thought about that.
Right.
And you've never made an attempt to dig through that a little bit, but you also don't want to be the person who's ruminating and obsessing.
Spending the next 20 years going through what could have happened, figure out the why, so I can now get rid of the problem. Yeah, we definitely do. So we view it as kind of like factors that contribute to anxiety, right? Which could be stressors, hormones, diet, nutrition, overall wellness, being ill, did I say trauma? Anything could contribute to fluctuating levels of anxiety, present stressors, things like that. Anxiety disorders are a disordered relationship with fluctuating levels of anxiety. Okay. And so, I mean, that's the way I try and use it to simplify. And what we see out there a lot in social media land, and even in therapeutic settings, it's the focus is always on bring it from here to here. Oh, you're at an 8? Let's try a million ways to bring it back down, because then the sign of being okay is that when we can control a feeling and bring it from here to here. That's generally a maintaining factor of an anxiety disorder. So if somebody is just feeling anxious, and I use sleep as an example. I'm not a great sleeper. I just don't sleep great all the time. I don't have a disordered relationship with sleep. I don't have anxiety about sleep. I just don't sleep well. So if I were to take like a class on sleeping, like how to get better at sleeping, I would kind of go at it with this attitude of like, oh, that'd be nice. It would be nice, like, oh, circadian rhythm. Oh, I was never aware of there was such a thing. That's interesting to learn about that. I might put that into practice for my overall well-being. I didn't know about the temperature in the room could affect that. Oh, and so like you were saying, Nikki, right? Like information is awareness of how sleep works, super helpful and useful. But for somebody who will call me when anxiety is sort of fused to sleep gets kind of marked as danger. And now it's, I must do all these things to sleep. And so overall wellness approaches then become weapons to get rid of and identify danger. And it usually has the opposite effect. So somebody who's going at it with that mindset, my approach really is more of dare, which is that rather than me to use all these techniques to me, this might help me sleep better. For this person, really, it would require the opposite approach. This person needs to get better at not sleeping. Does that sound weird? Like, I have to get better at not sleeping because I have mislabeled not sleeping well as danger. And when I get better at just not sleeping, fear becomes like kind of detached from that. It's no longer danger.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And it makes me think of a story I told in the Hypervigilance episode. I have worked with people who skip a day of pooping and they lose their shit, pun intended. Like they absolutely have a conniption fit. And I had a lady not that long ago ask if she should go to the ER because she did not poop for 1 or 2 days. I had another lady previously who said that she gets really freaked out that her body is accumulating toxins when she's not eliminating. And she's toxic and she knows that she's toxic. Meanwhile, my 3 best friends from high school and college, all 3 of them poop maybe once a week. If you ask them, hey, would you like to poop more or easier? All 3 of them would say, yeah, that'd be nice.
Exactly.
But they're not losing their mind. They're not obsessing over it. They're still living their life, working, having a family, having relationships, going on vacation. Like they're still doing things despite constipation that is arguably much more severe versus the folks who have what I would deem to be relatively minor symptoms and they absolutely lose it. And now they're spiraling and they're obsessing.
Right. And then that's where, so you'll hear it like on my channel and whatnot, I talk a lot about danger stories. So here's the facts and here's the story we tell about the facts. So the facts, I say we both might have the same facts. I mean, put on any news channel ever, right? It's not just the facts anymore. You hear lots of stories about facts. And so the fact is I haven't gone to the bathroom since Tuesday and today's Wednesday. Yup, period. That's kind of how you become a boring news reporter. That's just how you report facts. Yup, that's what my body's doing right now. Yup, I noticed that blank happened right now. Yup, period. And then uninvolvement from that. You report the facts and you carry on. We tend to tell a lot of danger stories about the facts. We don't use periods, we use ellipses. I haven't pooped since Tuesday. ... Oh my God. Now what? What did I do wrong? Let's figure out why. And so in the world of anxiety, let's use panic attack instead. Yesterday I didn't have a panic attack, but today I had one. What did I do yesterday that I didn't do today? Yesterday I had orange juice at 10 o'clock in the morning and I was fine. But today I had orange juice at 10:30 in the morning and I had a panic attack. no more orange juice after 10 o'clock. And just to be safe, no juice and nothing orange. Because we make all these, our brains are very good at making associations between things. And so we use correlation as causation oftentimes. And we see what happened together when the bad things showed up. So I can try and control all these things so I can control this. And a lot of it comes down to control, trying to internally control things that are really not in our direct control.
Yeah, no, I think it's good you brought up food, because that's one area in particular that the IBS space is huge in, like suggesting it's almost the first line intervention. And it's so interesting because, you know, if you look at the research, hypervigilance, visceral anxiety are common in IBS conditions, but a lot of the interventions almost hook you in, like you're saying, into this mindset of being really focused in on how your gut's responding to every food you're putting in your body. And again, I think there might be appropriate ways to intervene dietarily with IBS. There's something called the low FODMAP diet. I don't know if you're super familiar with it, but it's basically...
As of yesterday, I was, when I went through your channel and looked it up real quick.
Yeah, so it's basically
cut out everything behind me. That's the gist.
Oh, that's what those... Okay. Oh, yeah. No, I like all those things.
Yeah, so, and it's scary because even in the handouts, they'll usually have green and red, like danger.
Oh, good and bad. Danger
right, good, bad, green light, red light, like hell no. So what happens is a lot of people jump on these diets with no guidance. Like maybe a doctor's like, here's a handout, and they might get some relief. And then they get super hooked in that they can't ever get off low FODMAP. And then they start having more symptoms, and they're saying, well, what other food do I need to eliminate? So it's just this spiral that happens. And it's tricky because, again, I think the diet could be a potential tool. Like you said, for maybe the right mindset, or certain people might do well with that tool versus not. But we have so many clients with anxiety to start that it just might not be the appropriate tool in the first place. There might be other tools to try much sooner than trying to manipulate the diet and getting hyper fixated on the dietary strategies. But and
using tools as tools instead of weapons, right? So even anything that's in the wellness world, we're not against. It's just our people, including me, right? I did the same damn thing, right? We use these tools as weapons to get rid of something, as opposed to, like, you know, I know in the Dare book, Barry, there's a section where he's like, you know, if you're in a heightened sensitized state, right, in the beginning, right, as your body's desensitizing, you know, cut out alcohol or caffeine or sugar, anything that might be extra things, extra chemicals that may lead to sensitization. And a lot of people take that as the God-spoken truth of, like, and then I never even smelled alcohol again. And I never touched a gram of sugar again. Like, again,
sugar is
weaponizing
toxic.
Wellness. It's like weaponizing this wellness approach to try and get rid of anxiety. And it's the getting rid of, that's the disorder. Getting rid of keeps you in hypervigilant state, hypersensitized state. And then that gets marked as the danger.
The way we heard it, so we had another guest on where we were talking a lot about, like, disordered eating and the relationship you have with food. And I remember one of the things that came up when I took that woman's practitioner class was something can be practical. Like, if you have high cholesterol, making a dietary change for that could be a really practical thing to do. But it's not saying that food is evil or bad or inflammatory or intrinsically bad. There's a difference between that, right? Like, am I cutting out gluten because I'm a celiac, which I am?
Right.
Or am I cutting it out because I think gluten is evil and bad and inflammatory and poison and toxic? Like, those are two different things. And I think that oftentimes in the IBS space, especially for people who have been diagnosed with SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, they're told that these foods are feeding the SIBO or feeding the candida or feeding the bad boogeyman that they fear. And then, it's like they're digging themselves a deeper hole, but then they're desperate for help to get out of the hole. It's a pickle to be in.
Yeah. And that's kind of the loop where good and bad, even feelings, thoughts, your body, good and bad aren't feelings. They're judgments of feelings. And so then that opens the whole, the Pandora's box of like, these are good and these are bad. So these then come with judgment and shame and the shoulds and all the stories we tell. And I'll be okay if I do these things until you eat all the good foods. And then one day you don't feel good again. You're like, oh shit, now what? Which is the same thing in the anxiety world, right? It's, well, I took these 27 supplements and I'm doing all these techniques and it worked. When I hear worked, I know right away, then your intention is to get rid of anxiety. And our intention is to get better at having anxiety. Get better at experiencing what your body's experiencing. Like just like you heal your relationship, like you get better at being sad, not try and not be sad. You get better at having thoughts that you find unpleasant, not trying to get rid of thoughts. It's the trying to get rid of that puts the danger label on everything and keeps you hypervigilant. Because if I here's a thought and I go, let's see if all these tools work to get rid of it. I call on my little guy who I always pick up here, your alarm guy, who now, based on your actions, he gets the message that that's danger. If this is bad, then this must be gone. And the way he works is he clearly shows you now what must be gone. His job is like if something's marked as danger, hypervigilance happens, he kind of shows up with a magnifying glass and a light. So he can clearly show you the bad thing that must be gone. And so now, like, are you more dizzy or are you magnified dizzy? Do you have more stomach pain or is it with hypervigilance and the sensitized state, is it magnified dizzy? Because they feel the same, but we usually, when I first got hooked in this, it was all hooked to my stomach too. And I went from old Michelle to panic attack in a movie theater and new and very much not improved Michelle. And it fused itself to my stomach. And I thought I was going to get sick in the movie theater. Okay. And so your alarm has a way of screenshotting whatever it thinks the dangerous thing is. So I was in the movie theater. It was cold outside. I had a lot of clothes on because it was winter in New York. It was packed. I felt sick because we ate a lot of food. And then from that point on, it was, oh my God, how's my stomach? How's my stomach? How's my stomach? Wake up in the morning, 2 seconds of bliss because you forget what your life is like, right? And then immediate check-in. How do I feel? How do I feel? And then you go find something. So now, even if it's this much, it's magnified. And as like we tend to view things black and white. So it's either here or it's gone. And if it's here, it's bad and it's a problem. And then spending the day planning my life around how I feel and how I think I'm gonna feel based on all the things I'm supposed to do. And should I do those things? And let's bring my go bag of all stuff just in case my stomach doesn't feel good. And then now my stomach is marked as danger. And now fear has fused itself to my stomach so that when I got anxious, my stomach responded. And when my stomach felt funny, then anxiety showed up. So they started showing up together at places now.
Yeah.
The epitome of the gut-brain axis in action, right? They're connected. But I think a lot of the time in our world, Amy and I have people who come in and they believe, oh, all disease begins in the gut, right? They use that Hippocrates quote, which is rad. Like, I get the sentiment behind it. But they'll come in and say, all disease begins in the gut, or they've been told that by another practitioner. Therefore, if I just heal my gut, then my anxiety is going to magically dissolve away. And everything's going to be puppies and rainbows and unicorns and glitter. It's like, no. The two are connected. So you probably would benefit from working on both simultaneously. Correct. Or maybe from just the top-down approach and working on that angle much more aggressively. And then, maybe you throw in a probiotic or some ginger capsules for the gut, but maybe you work more from the top down approach.
Right. So I'll see that in trauma with people who have trauma or past experiences where it was dangerous. It was, yes, attend to the trauma for the sake of trauma. But I have a lot of people that, again, anxiety is viewed almost as like a fever. And we have to get to the source of the infection. And if we can just find where the infection's coming from, so we'll dig deeper and deeper and deeper. And once we find the right thing and we talk about it and we resolve it and we spend $50,000 on it, this then goes away. And maybe the feelings of anxiety might alleviate, but if it's the goal, then it becomes like trauma therapy becomes weaponized. So I've had people that have had decades of therapy and they're like, I get it. I understand. I've done the inner child work. I've done all family systems therapy, which I'm all proponent for the sake of working through trauma. But then they come here and they're like, but I'm still having a panic attack in the grocery store. I said, because you still have a disordered relationship with anxiety. I'm still treating anxiety as the danger. And so you can talk about what happened for the rest of your life, but if you don't start treating anxiety as safe, you will always be embattled with this feeling that your body always has the capacity to create.
Yeah. Well, it makes me think of the example I gave with the pooping. It's like those people maybe need to get better at being an every other day pooper.
Exactly. Right? Well, in my world, yes.
Yeah. It's interesting too. I like the analogy of magnifying the feelings or the sensations that are happening from the IBS space. I think a lot of times too, just in general, what we see is that people magnify the importance of the symptoms in their health journey. And then their life becomes so small, it's like, okay, I'm not going to social gatherings because there's food I can't eat, or I don't want to have diarrhea in public.
Can't go to the movie theater.
Right. I don't want to be in pain. And again, I'm checking, even mentally checking, whether they're symptom tracking, journaling, or mental checking, like they're doing all these things like you're saying. But their world becomes so small. And I think that that's such a telltale sign that you're probably too hooked in if, it's the only thing you're focusing on and other things have kind of taken a total backseat.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely, because then it's eye on the prize, and then I can get back into life when this problem is resolved. And you do that for right now danger. Like if you were on fire, you would do that. Nope, can't watch the movie now. I'm on fire. This requires my attention and energy. This is right now danger. And so I'm not to minimize any of this, but I use the word differentiate between danger and discomfort. Now, people usually want to punch me through the Zooms when I say discomfort because it's like, oh, you don't know. I'm talking about discomfort at a 1 and discomfort at a 10. But discomfort and danger, like you fight danger and you survive through danger, involve yourself in danger. We get involved in discomfort and discomfort gets marked as danger. And so now life is on hold because this is the identified danger. So here comes this whoosh of energy and you stay locked in on whatever, your stomach or your head or tinnitus or eye floaters or like in my world, I created this little black squiggly thing because I had made so many videos and so many answered so many questions on our webinars because the questions come in. Well, how do you dare through? Well, what about dizzy? Like, it's not dizzy. It's the stories I tell, the time I involve myself in it, the importance I place on it. So it's not dizzy. It's this. And they're like, well, you talked about dizzy, but not vertigo. And so I just made a black scribble. So whatever the thing is I'm battling with, most of my world, the maintaining factors are the battle, not the thing that's here. Because it doesn't work with logic. Logic, smart people, logically speaking, would think, well, when this is gone, I've got nothing to fight. That makes sense, right? This world does not make sense. And so the smarter you are, the more logical you are, the better you are at making associations in your mind, the more creative your brain is, the more you tend to get stuck in this thing because it works backwards. The fight is what keeps us latched in, not the thing that we're fighting.
Well, and if I could put Amy on the spot, Amy, this makes me think of Crackhead Steve. Do you want to tell her about Crackhead Steve?
Oh, yeah. So I started labeling some of my thoughts as Crackhead Steve. And that seemed to really help me just kind of be like, okay, this is just my Crackhead Steve, like in my brain. He has good intentions, but he's kind of on crack and he's living in a van by the river. Like, so in my head, I kind of just sort of started being like, hey, why would I rationally argue with Steve if he's yelling stuff that I don't like at me? You know, like he's yelling stuff that I need to pay attention to, but no one's going to stop in the middle of the street. If a known crackhead's yelling at them, they're just going to ignore them and move on. But when I was in more of my OCD cycles and my anxiety cycles, it's like I was putting together like the most, like I was a lawyer putting together a counter argument for Steve, who never listens and is still yelling stuff that I don't like at me. So like to me, again, the Crackhead Steve scenario in my head was like, oh, I can't argue with my crackhead in my brain, which again, I kind of, it helped me just kind of be like, oh yeah, that's just Steve doing his thing, you know?
Right, because you're trying to prove him wrong. And like I had a little example I'll use. My son, a couple years ago, he came home from school and like, I know math's the same, but it's like different also now, you know, like groups and the tens and I didn't learn that learning math. And so he came home and he was telling me something he learned in math. And he was like, yeah, and blah, 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 move this to the 9, make the 10. And so 9 plus 3 is 15. And I'm like, oh, I know math's different, but it's like not that different. Like 9 plus 3 is not 15. 9 plus 3 is still 12. Maybe that's why new math is good because I still have to count it in my head. And so it became this conversation with me and Ryan. I'm like, no, buddy, 9 plus 3 is 12. Even if you do this 10 thing, no, 9 plus 3 is 15. And I realized after a few minutes of going back and forth that he was just as sure he was right as I was. And at that point, the goal was not to prove him wrong and to educate him and show him that this is right. The goal was really just to end the conversation. And so my response was, okay. Yep. Okay. Because no, but really it is. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And I know that sounds weird. Just to let you know, he's very good at math and and he's fine at math and he knows 9 plus 3 is not 15 anymore. But it's because it's an involvement disorder, we stay involved because we're trying to prove you wrong. Trying to prove, no, see, I am a good person. No, that's not going to happen. No, if I think hard enough, this won't turn into something bad and I will just stay involved. And in order to heal an involvement disorder, it's not to prove what you're involved in wrong. It's to really just go like, okay, and uninvolve yourself from that conversation.
It kind of reminds me of, again, the hypervigilance episode. I think we talked about that a little bit. Like, the motto ideally should be whatever or okay. Or I forget what word we used in that episode, but we had a similar kind of vein.
I have
I know, I was going to bring it up. It was in your bio of your Instagram. Please, I'll let you do the honors. What's your...
Which maybe shouldn't be in my bio of my Instagram, but really after 15 years of just working with DARE, just anxiety, panic, OCD, it's really all roads lead to fuck it. And if you can find a nicer word for that, please message me and let me know. I can't seem to find one because I know that not everybody likes that terminology.
Screw it, but that's not much better.
But that also means fuck it. But in like it's like a PG version of the same idea. The best I found was please fuck it, but that's not what I was looking for either. Like they just put please in front. It's Googling like crazy. It's this, and it's an attitude shift of like, whether you like it or not, like Barry's like a nice professional guy. And as you see, I'm like kind of a dick, but it's this unspoken line of whether you like it or not, this is what's happening right now. Yes, correct. I have not pooped since Tuesday. Yes, I have pain in my side right now. And you don't need to know the whys to still accept that you have pain in your side right now. You can treat that pain in your side softly, right? With, yeah, I do have pain in my side. And if there's nothing I can do about this, then my my next state of problems is the doing. Then I need to cease the doing and the involvement and weirdly sort of get better at experiencing this unpleasant feeling that I'm having in my body. Because there's people who have stomach digestive issues, but they don't have anxiety attached to it, right? Because they just, with the word just, it just hurts. I'm just like, my thing was nausea, and some people truly don't care about nauseous. They're like, oh, whatever, you're nauseous, you're nauseous. I never used the word just. It was, oh my God, I'm nauseous, right? It's back. What do I do about nausea? I treated it. It's not just, most people don't like it, but then we double down and we dislike it and we battle it and treat it as danger.
Yeah, it reminds me of I know we talked about this study too, where they looked at people with IBS versus IBD. I don't think it was a huge study, but it was pretty interesting because basically they found that people with IBS generally have more hypervigilance than IBD. Well, IBD is like arguably a more it's a life-threatening condition potentially. So you would think it would be maybe the opposite. So it's interesting that, maybe there is more of this as a part of the IBS cycle that keeps you stuck too. Like it might be an underlying factor and so important when we think about IBS. Go ahead. Did you have a comment, Nikki?
Yeah. And similarly, there are some studies in IBS specifically, because a lot of our people focus on the gas and the bloating and distension and that sort of stuff. And the current dialogue in the world right now is that, oh, that's the bacteria making gas because you fed them too much of a bad food, and it's the SIBO creating the gas. Well, there are numerous studies that have shown that people with IBS have the exact same amount of intestinal gas as healthy normal controls. But again, I love the idea of the magnifying glass. Like they are hypervigilant to and hypersensitized to that normal amount of gas. And again, it's like whoosh, that magnifying glass on it. And I meant to mention this earlier, but we kept going, so I didn't want to interrupt. But your little guy with the magnifying glass, I like that.
This guy? And I also just happen to have a magnifying glass here also.
Yes, there you go. But I love that, and like the attitude towards the thing kind of dictating how much fear you have. It made me think of another possible metaphor where, like, if you're a little kid, and Amy has a not quite 2-year-old, so this would be in line with that age group. If you were a little kid and you were walking down the street with your mom or dad or your guardian, and every time you passed a dog, if every time you passed a dog, your mom or your guardian was like, you stay over here, it's dangerous, oh my God, no, don't let that dog come near my baby. You would obviously grow up to be an adult who's scared shitless of all dogs. But if you have a mom like me who loves all dogs.
Take all the dogs home with us.
Yes, I'm obsessed with all of them. So every person I meet on the street, pretty much, I'm asking, can I meet your dog? Can I pet? Are they cool? And if they allow me to, oh my God, I'm giving that dog so much love. Somebody with that kind of upbringing around dogs would probably learn to love dogs. And I think similarly, if you've been exposed to, again, I'm going to go back to constipation. If you have been exposed to messaging out in the world, or if you've been educated from well-intentioned but boneheaded doctors that this is building up toxins, you're going to start becoming really scared of constipation versus, again, like, despite me being one of their best friends, the 3 friends I referenced, like, they don't know all that much about the gut. They're just normal people and they're just going through life, living their life. Like they haven't cultivated that relationship. They haven't given themselves a reason to be terrified of constipation in the same way that some of my patients have. But anyway, I thought maybe that would be another analogous metaphor.
Yeah, because there's learned behaviors too, right? So if you learn how you see other people treat dogs, then there's a good chance you might start treating dogs the way other people treat dogs. And sometimes it's doctors, and sometimes it's even like family members. Just growing up as a kid, even if it's not IBS world, it could be even like I grew up with, it was all well intended, but it was all like, If you don't feel good, do something about the feeling. Oh, you have a sore throat? Take a cough drop. Oh, you're tired? Go lay down and go to sleep. And so, like a lot of my world, I see a lot of things can break down. Actually, you can take a lot of the DSM and truly help a lot of the things that you see in the DSM with these two specific categories. First one, growing, and there are things we can all improve on. They're all things that we have the ability to change. The first one I see is the ability to grow your tolerance for discomfort, growing your ability to feel all the unpleasant feelings, and you don't grow tolerance by doing this. This is how you survive through discomfort. You grow tolerance for things by allowing the things to be there. You grow tolerance for your neighbors by allowing your neighbors to be your neighbors, sort of thing, not by keeping them over there and never engaging with them. So by growing your tolerance for your ability to feel all versions of discomfort. And the second category, which comes up a lot in my world as well, getting better at your ability to direct and maintain your focus and attention on where you want it to be. And so I'm assuming in your world, right, hypervigilance leads to hyperfixation, leads to rumination, leads to a lot of graphs and charting. And my world too, it's the same. Keep track of how you feel. Keep track of what you ate to see how it related to your anxiety and all the homework and all the doing. And it's still treating this with this importance. And the way anxiety disorders sort of heal themselves is when I go more to a fuck it mindset. When the goal really is irrelevance, unimportance, like that, a nonchalant attitude. It doesn't mean I like what's there, but I'm no longer embattled with what's there. And embattlement is what keeps me sensitized.
Well, pardon me. It made me think of warfare when you were talking about it. Like, you're tracking the enemy. You're seeing, where are they going next? Where were they just now? What did they do when they were at that town? What should we do? Do we do an airstrike? Do we do a land strike? Do we do a sea strike? I don't know if that's a thing. I'm just running with it at this point. Like, it's like you're analyzing the enemy and analyzing their every move and trying to anticipate their next move so that you could get in there and just beat them. And yeah, tracking your stools, tracking your diet, tracking your symptoms, tracking every little gas bubble, like shrinking your world, like Amy said, so that your entire world is just researching and learning about your gut. Like,
right. And it creates this pseudo form of control over something that we really don't have control over. Like, to me, in the anxiety world, control, vulnerability, and uncertainty. And those are usually the three pillars of the things that, like, we have a very hard time with, like, having things that are not in our control. And if this is something that I can't get rid of, I can't fix this, whatever this thing is, if I can't control this, I have to create some version of control for myself to feel like I have control over this. And so tracking your gas doesn't change your gas. Tracking your gas marks gas as important and magnifies, again, like if I'm like, you can only see my hands here?
Yeah.
I'm doing this. This guy just sees fight. He doesn't necessarily see what I'm fighting. Fight is the bat signal for my alarm guy to show up to see, well, obviously whatever she's fighting must be dangerous, so let's keep sending her energy and keep shoving her head towards that thing and clearly show her what she's fighting. And so I can be fighting a murderer like this, and I can be fighting thoughts like this. But the fight is the maintaining factor here. The fight is what tells this guy that this thing is danger.
Yeah, no, it's so, I love how you're explaining it. It makes it so clear. And I think maybe people are thinking, like, how do I learn to stop fighting? Or how do I learn to just embrace
well, you fuck it, Amy.
Well, I know that.
That's what you do.
Well, that's not how you actually use those words.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
But yeah, I mean, I think that people are like, oh, how do I do that? And I think we've given some hints, like probably stop researching, start trying to resist tracking, start to resist checking in, like, and there's these things that people can start working on. Now, one thing that I've definitely seen discussed a little bit is having, like, kind of, whoa, the second I try to stop listening or like stop resisting, things get louder.
100%.
So maybe you can talk a little bit about that as being like a part of the process too. Because I know that was something I dealt with a little bit. I don't know if it's called like Rebound or
it's to be expected. Normalize it, right? If this is a bear and this guy's like, I gotta look a bear, do something, whoosh, 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 do something. And his job is to alert you and show you, whoosh, whoosh, show you, and then he looks at you to see what you do. And if you respond positively by fighting the bear, he's like, oh, good, bears are danger. Totally gonna alert her to the bear next time. Now, if you go to ERP or your therapy or whatever you're gonna do to learn how to like, oh, I don't have to do, like my whole job is teaching people how to stop doing shit. Just cease behaviors. Not try and feel better, just cease the behaviors. And so if he sees, oh my God, look, Michelle, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Look at the thing that you treat like bears, and I change my behaviors, and I'm like, He's like, hello?
All right.
Hey girl, did you not hear me? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Here's an extra whoosh to get your attention. Do you not see this? And so you're probably going to be more aware and more whoosh. That's absolutely to be expected. That's the sign of a normally functioning survival system. This guy's doing exactly what his job is. This has been identified as danger. So he's going to just send you more fear and awareness of this. Fear is safe. Fear is safe. Fear is not only is it safe, it shows up to keep you safe so you can battle danger. And so it's your job to have fear and show fear that this is safe.
Well, it's similarly going back to Crackhead Steve. Like, if you have spent time engaging with your intrusive thoughts or engaging with Crackhead Steve, like, oh, you're right, Steve. Tell me more about that theory. You might be onto something. Oh my gosh, I never noticed that, Steve. If you have been engaging with Crackhead Steve for a long time, and then all of a sudden you just like turn your back to him, he's going to be a little bit perturbed, and he's going to be really trying to get at you to get your attention again, because he's gotten used to having your attention and focus for such a long time. So again, I think it's to be expected.
Absolutely. Can I show you my ants here for hypervigilance? Okay,
Yeah.
This might help explain it. I don't think I've posted this on my Instagram page yet.
Oh, wow.
But
Exclusive content.
That's right.
First time only. First time here. You see these ants? They're like, whatever, they're small, and most people don't love ants, but like you see them on the ground, you would just sort of like, whatever, like ants, you would walk around them, but they wouldn't bother you so much, you wouldn't do much. This is how you see ants when you're not in a sensitized state, okay? When you're in a sensitized state, this ant looks like this ant, okay? It's the same ant. So like the ant didn't get bigger. Your magnification lens, when you're sensitized, your light gets brighter and your magnification gets stronger. So now this ant looks like this ant, and now you're like, holy shit, that ant is freaking disgusting. And we tend to, like, I'll even pick this up on one-to-one calls, and people will physically go like this. Like, and I'll use that as a great example. I'll say, you didn't shield yourself from this. But now we're not even in the same room. And some people, I'm like, we're not even in the same country. You're doing this. It's so interesting, right? I am protecting myself from this, not because it's danger, because it bothers me. It creates distress. It creates discomfort in my body. And so the hard part of this is being aware of like, this is the same thing as this, and I need to treat this the same way I treat this, because it's still just an ant. It is just a magnified ant, because I am in a hypervigilant, hypersensitized state. You like my ants?
I love your ants. I never thought I would say that to somebody, but that's such a good way to describe it. And yeah, you're right. Like, I think I even recoiled like, oh God, that picture is grotesque. But yeah, it's not putting me in danger. It's not threatening me in any way. It's just kind of icky. But
right.
Yeah.
Right. Like a sunburn, right? If I had a sunburn and I always put my seatbelt on in the car, and the seatbelt before a sunburn, right? I might not love how the seatbelt feels, but when I have a sunburn, now, oh, this hurts so much. Oh, don't touch me. Oh, my clothes hurt. It's really not the outside source. It's the sunburn has sensitized my skin. So now this touch packs more of a punch because of the sensitization, not necessarily because of the seatbelt. But then when we're like, no, can't wear the seatbelt, can't wear a bra, can't touch me, don't do all this, right? As if that's the problem. And really, it's my sensitized skin that's the problem. And when sensitization comes down, this guy starts to look like this guy again, even though he's the same guy. But he starts, as you come down from the sensitized state, this starts looking more like this.
I love all these props. I feel like you get like an Academy Award for props in terms of guests and us. We've never really had too many props.
Well, I'm thinking here, I'm like, all right, I don't really have any anxiety that I'm aware of. Like, can I register for the DARE program just so I can get more exposure to your props and your ways of explaining things?
Sure.
This is gold.
Well, we have so much free information out there. Like, we have the app that's, there's a premium version of it, but I think like 65% of what's on there is free. Like, we have other things, but we're not hiding anything behind like a pay grade. It's all this information that you have. First of all, you absolutely have anxiety, just like you have sad and you have anger and you have joy and you have amusement. Just nobody taught us how to be anxious as kids. So you might not have like a disordered relationship with anxiety, but you have you have the ability to have fear and angst come in, and it's just, right? Maybe you never had a false fusion. And that's a hard thing to explain to other people who have not had, where like fear gets fused to something. Because when that happens, it's so hard to explain it. It's like trying to explain the color red to somebody who can't see. Like false fusion to me, so mine fused to my stomach, and it's like, it's not just nausea anymore. And like, Amy, if it's for you, if it was in thoughts, if what you were saying before, right, it's not just shitty thoughts and it's not just scared. It doesn't feel scary. It feels danger. And so now they're not just scary thoughts, they're danger thoughts. For me, it was danger nausea. And so, of course, I stayed hooked to dangerous things because I'm good at hooking on to things. And so, this false fusion, when fear gets stuck in something, it feels important, it feels dangerous, and it feels super risky to not attend to this. Because here's the danger stories. What if I don't attend to it and it takes over and it gets worse? And I go crazy, I die, I kill myself, or my physical problem gets worse, I'll need surgery, I'm beyond repair. And our favorite, one we all use, I'm stuck like this forever. What if I'm stuck like this forever and it never goes away? And that's the disordered part.
You bring up an interesting point, though. I don't know if this would be tremendously helpful or tremendously harmful to bring this up to an anxious person or an anxious group of people. But what if it never goes away? Right? Like for IBS, like what if you stay exactly the same for the rest of your life? What if you still have bloating or constipation or GERD or gastritis or whatever? What if you have these exact same symptoms and sensations for the rest of your life? Then what do you do? If you had that knowledge, if you had that guarantee that nothing is going to change, there's no answer, there's no solution, you just have to live with it, would you then start to live your life and try to maximize the quality of life that you have? That would be my reaction to that. Like if you told me that I was going to just have to deal with something for the rest of my life, I would like to think that I would just try to build a happy life around that to the best of my ability. Again, I don't know if that question would be
that's where like then we
helpful.
get to the fork in the road of like, then that happens. Like the answer to all what ifs and coulds truly are, yeah, it could. Yep.
Yeah,
it could. Not, no, it's fine. You're going to be fine. It'll go away. It's like, it might, it could. And let's just say, like, let's say you looked into a crystal ball and you were like, yeah, that's going to be here forever. And so now you don't have a choice about what's here forever, but you have a choice about how you live with what you've just been told. So I'll have people go two ways. The one way that keeps us kind of stuck in, what if this never goes away? Then I need to stare at it and survive through it and still stay over involved in this thing. But truly, when you can say the same words, but with a different attitude of like, oh, this thing, it's here and it'll never go away and nothing I do will change it. Fuck it. Fuck it. Yeah. And that's where you find your fuck it. That's also where people stay latched, but that's the place where you also find your, oh, well, I'm only going to be I was 5'6¼ since like 5th grade. I've been 5'6¼ never passed to 5'6½". And so, but I want to be 5'8". But I tried this program. I tried these vitamins. It's too bad. You're 5'6". So, and that's the whole idea of acceptance. Acceptance means notice what is and leave all that shit alone. And all the things that could, what ifs, we get the world of anxiety, and it's not just anxiety disorders, it's these behaviors that create all the other disorders, disordered relationships with food, disordered relationships with other feelings like sad or anger or tired or fatigue, other things. It's like we're attending to coulds. And you can't fight coulds. One of the golden rules here, you can't fight coulds. You can have coulds. Coulds are your imagination.
Well, and it makes me think of some stuff that we've talked about with OCD, and I've shared, like I've had patients who come to every single appointment and they ask me numerous times, do you think I'm a lost cause? Do you think you can help me? Do you really think there's hope for me? Do you think I'm ever going to get rid of this? And like, I empathize with where they're at, but also that's not helpful. Because and for a while, I realized this as Amy and I explored OCD together. For a while, I would try to be the caring, empathetic, supportive provider. And I would tell them, totally, there's absolutely help for you or hope for you. And you're going to beat this. Don't you worry. I believe in you. We still have tricks up our sleeve. Like we've got tools in our toolbox. We're going to do this. But then I started noticing that people would come to every single appointment and they would portal message me between appointments and they would text and email. And it's like, you could scratch the itch and you could give them that relief for like a nanosecond. But then instantly they're going to think
that's reassurance.
Yeah. You could reassure them and they'll feel better for a nanosecond, but then immediately their brain goes to, but what if she's wrong? But what if she's lying to me? But what if she doesn't know about this one thing? What if I have a parasite and she's not really a parasite expert? What if the SIBO never goes away? No. Yeah. And it's, again, like you could try to reassure 1,000,000 times and the person oftentimes is going to come back the 1,000,001th time asking for reassurance
because
again.
There's no reassurance that creates certainty. And so most people are getting reassurance because it's still uncertain. Are you sure? Is it gonna? It's always usually future oriented. Is this normal? Is this okay? Am I going to be okay? Is this? And so I will offer assurance on a first call with somebody. Yeah, this is, sounds like blah, 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 blah. Yep, this is how it works. And when they ask again, oh, I've already answered that question. It becomes habitual. It becomes another C-type compulsive behavior. And really, two things. I want to know for sure. Like, I really want to know because I want to fix the problem. But also, not knowing for sure also creates this feeling of bothered, unsettled, of angst. And when I hear, oh, yeah, this gets, until I feel bothered again. And so that's where the whole grow your capacity to feel bothered. I don't know. And when I don't know, that usually comes paired with, especially OCD world, angst, unsettled, feels like I need to do something. And if I do something, and my job is to get you better at just feeling bothered. Feel bothered. And the answers to all the maybes are, you're right, maybe. I don't know. Oh, it's in the future? I don't know. I don't know. Will I feel better? I have no idea how you're going to feel 3 seconds from now. And all of the could. Most people are very lost in the content of the coulds. Let's talk about this could be a pathogen. And so now I'm stuck in pathogens as opposed to, there's a what if. Yep, there's a what if. Like we get stuck attending to the content of the what ifs, trying to find certainty so I can leave them alone. But really, maybe.
Yeah. And
I can get up from this chair and break my leg. I could. And if I don't, I could break my leg the next time. Like there's no end to coulds, but we stay involved in coulds.
Amy, I feel like you found me my next kindred spirit, because I was going to share, I don't know if I'm like the perfect person to work with anxious folk or the worst person to work with anxious folk. But the one that I usually say when people get really tangled up in this is, the world is weird and unpredictable, and we could be struck by a meteorite tomorrow. We don't know.
I say asteroid.
Or maybe I'm incorrect. Maybe it would be an asteroid. I don't know.
Oh, I have no idea.
Who's an expert in this? Comment below. But or like I could walk out into the street tomorrow and be hit by a bus. I don't know. We don't have a crystal ball, and you kind of have to be cool with some degree of certainty moving forward in your life, and you just have to live a little bit like today's your last day on earth, but also kind of assume that you're going to live until 80 or 90. Like, take care of your body. Don't do drugs, kids.
Right.
But
like, live here. Like, living happens here.
To have joy.
We're living here, not what if of there. We tend, especially with anxiety, we tend to be living some version in the future. Whether it's 2 seconds in the future or 20 years into the future, but it could, but it might, but I might throw up, but I might have diarrhea, but I could. Yeah, you're right. I could.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, yeah, I might. I got another pair of pants. Oh, I can go to the store. Oh, it's not my problem. It's their problem. I already have the diarrhea. I feel better now. And it's the attitude you take of like, I could shit my pants. He could shit his pants. Oh, he could break his leg. I could have a giant orgasm right now. I don't know. I could. All the things that could. We just fight here trying to prevent there. I need to make sure I don't have diarrhea, which keeps you in a sensitized state. Fight or flight's on, rest and digest comes down, right? They're kind of like on a seesaw. Yeah. Fight or flight's up, rest and digest is off. And we kind of keep the cycle going by doing that, as opposed to, yeah, maybe. Yeah, I could die. Yep, I can go crazy. Yep, I could take my shirt off and run off of this Zoom call. Yep, I could throw up. Yep. It's uninvolvement from the coulds.
Right.
Honestly, if 2020 taught us anything, it's that literally anything is possible. We had meth gators in Florida. We had
nobody had that bingo card.
Killer bees or this.
An eagle carrying a shark. A toilet paper shortage. It was a weird ass year. Anything's possible. You just have to embrace that. But again, I think that for a lot of people, there's been an uptick in anxiety and tummy problems even with COVID, because I think that realization came and just whacked him upside the head. Hey, anything's possible, and it's not all good. Whammo! And for some of us, I just kicked back and went, yeah, this confirmed what I already knew. This is ridiculous. And I keep joking, our generation is going to have the best crazy stories in the nursing home someday.
I ordered a pizza and they gave me a free roll of toilet paper.
Yeah, like, okay, Nanas, have you taken your meds yet? Kind of stuff. But for some people, that realization and that whack up beside the head of, oh, anything's possible, just threw them deeper into being terrified of that.
And that's sometimes if you're a natural doer or if you're a natural beer, right? I talk about that a lot on the webinars too. Some people are natural beers. Like my husband is a natural beer. And like if you're a natural beer, right? It's kind of like the hardware you've got. And it's kind of this idea of like, yeah, anything could happen, but anything's fine until it's not. And so like why, like everything's fine right now until it's not. And when it's not, then we'll deal with it then.
Cross that bridge when you get there.
Yeah. You seem to be a beer. Amy and I seem to take doer mode where we're like, shit could go down at any minute.
We got to be prepared.
Better be prepared.
We're like the
better be
doomsday
safe
preppers.
Than sorry. Exactly. So we look more into the future where like, think of the problems that could come up so we can pre-solve the problems so that we can prevent the problems. And we're very much, right? And so there's a spectrum of it. Like we have extreme beers, which have problems of their own, not the same problems, but we have extreme doers and extreme beers, where us doers cross the line to trying to control everything. Like we put on our seatbelt because we're safe, but then we spend the whole ride trying not to crash the car. And that's not how you drive. You still just drive and you accept uncertainty. You accept this weird fact that of course I could get in a car accident. I'm in a car. I can't get in a boat accident. I'm not in a boat, but I could get in a car accident. But I'm erring on the side of trust. I probably won't, but I could. And I'm going to act as if I'm not because right now I'm not. And it's doing a lot of here living. We tend to, even in probably this world too, we tend to do a lot of fighting all the present discomfort now, thinking I can fight away a worst case scenario.
Yeah. And I think one thing that was always helpful for me during like my OCD therapy and recovery and stuff like that is just trying to think about like, what would you be doing if you weren't focusing on IBS? Like, what would you be doing if this wasn't a thing at all? And trying to spend more time and energy there as well. And I think that kind of helps to slowly, like, even if you're starting slowly, where it's like, okay, you're very zoomed in on this right now, to completely get out of that, like, that is unrealistic. But how could you at least start to roll that back and start to do things as if IBS wasn't something that was derailing your life? Like, what does that look like for you? And I think if you can think about things and start implementing some strategies there, it's a really nice place to start.
It's kind of like a zoom out process where it's like, and so, well, like, and if you ever heard of ACT therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, you'll hear like, make decisions based on your values, right? What are your values? If you didn't have dizzy or an upset stomach right now to stare at, if this wasn't here to stare at, what would you be staring at? And so in order to look somewhere else, you have to be able to see the other options. And so it takes like I am feeling this feeling. Also, I'm feeling this feeling. Also, I'm feeling this feeling in the restaurant and I'm about to order Thai food. Oh, I love Thai food. Also, I love that woman's shirt over there. And you kind of like have awareness of all that. Like, there's awareness and what we direct our focus and attention to. So I can be aware of what my body's doing. And I can be aware that we're having a conversation, but I know a lot of people end up with diverted attention of like, just try and have a conversation, but I can't stop staring at my body, but my stomach, but it feels. And so now we're trying too hard to be involved here when we're really just internally involved. And it's really being softer with the internal world of like, yeah, I do have that feeling. And yes, my toe is itchy. And yes, my hair looks good today. And yes, there's bread on the table. And yes. And so when you have more, notice what you're aware of, and then you decide, it doesn't feel like it, especially in the beginning, but you own the ability to hook your focus and attention to where you've deemed it most important. And so I have kind of like, if there's a spotlight on my head, it's like, oh, but I'm looking at that thing because it caught my attention. Sure, but now how long do you stay there? And so I can direct my spotlight and this is what I can get better at doing, where yes, that's here, but since that's safe and my involvement doesn't change what's there, I give it permission to be there. I give my bodysuit that I live in, my bodysuit's going to do a lot of weird shit. And the me that lives in my bodysuit, I have to get better at just letting it do the thing it does.
I love the term bodysuit.
Bodysuit. Weird, right? I started using it a little while ago.
I like that, actually. I'm going to have to incorporate that into my vernacular.
Yeah. And weirdly, I'm thinking maybe I need to print some creepy pictures of ants later.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah, I know, things I never thought I'd say.
Because your bodysuit is doing all those things. It is, right? And so like we get better at letting it. And that's where the somatic type approach comes in. That's why there's not a special thing. It's more of an attitude you can take for any kind of approach that you might do in therapy. But with this overall idea of getting better at feeling what your body's doing. And so it's like a somatic type approach would be to kind of step inside your body. And if you're having stomach discomfort, truly go inside and just feel the feeling of discomfort. As if I had a post a couple days ago with a woman drawing a fruit bowl. And in order to paint a fruit bowl, you have to look at the fruit bowl and see the shapes of there's an orange and it's a little bumpy, and I draw it here and I paint it here on the canvas. And so this is like more of a somatic thing. you would get better at feeling. So it's, instead of talking about it, like I'll have a lot of people that do a lot of intellectualizing, mouth to brain. My stomach, it hurts so much, and then I had this feeling, and then what if it gets worse? And so we want to do like neck down. You sort of sink down into your body and just feel that feeling. If you have a creative brain, use it to your advantage. So let me look at that fruit bowl in my bodysuit. Yeah, it is like, it's kind of like a bubbly thing, the way you would look at a picture in a museum. Oh yeah, it's like pink and blue, and I see it's like layered acrylics. It does have like...
Sorry to interrupt you. Importantly, you're observing this thing not with the intention of gathering information so you can later tell a healthcare practitioner all of the excruciating details about the thing, right?
Correct.
You're just experiencing it for the sake of experiencing it. Because I find that our people will do what I just mentioned. They'll be like, oh, I need to super hyper focus on the thing, and I need to be able to accurately describe it in mind-numbing detail so that my doctor can tell me exactly what's wrong, and then we can fix it, and we can get on the world's most perfect supplement. And like, again, I get that to some degree. If you go to the ER with appendicitis, but you tell the doctor that your pain is right here in the middle of your forehead, they're probably not going to accurately tell you that you have appendicitis. So there's some usefulness in having clarity and accuracy describing your situation. But right now you're just saying like experience it for the sake of experiencing it, and like
with the period. Yes, getting better at feeling the feeling in my body. Because again, many people have digestive issues, but they don't have this piece hooked into it, hypervigilance attached to it.
My friends who poop once a week.
Exactly. They are probably poop beers.
I'm going to tell each of them you said that.
They might struggle with something else, like it's whatever we hook our fight to. And so some people they're better at just having digestive issues, but oh my God, but these thoughts. And somebody else was like, who cares about thoughts? Whatever, they're just thoughts. But my heart, I could really have a heart attack. And so where our worlds come together, it's like I'm hyper fixated and staring and involved and focused on this thing that doesn't require my hyper fixation. It doesn't require my latch. I'm going to conserve my energy. And what else is there to plug this very precious energy resource into? Because me staring at my gas doesn't get rid of my gas. So I have to get better at, when I go inward, just be with what's there, give it a nod, and then I decide what's most important for me to engage in. What's most useful? What's the most useful use of my time and my energy? Or what brings me joy? Like, what do I actually enjoy doing? If you like looking at your small intestine, if it brings you pleasure, look at it. But if it's not productive, if it's not useful, and you're not getting joy or pleasure out of it, it's probably habitual.
Yeah. And I think that this method too, when you're so hyper focused, it's like you're just almost like a slave to the whatever you're anxious about. But I think it's so empowering to know like you can direct your focus. I think that a lot of people just aren't familiar with that concept or idea. And I think sometimes, again, it's just not focused enough in therapists that aren't necessarily as like OCD or anxiety focused. And again, I think that that's a really key message too. Like, you have the power, and you should feel empowered by some of these strategies, because you can direct focus and you can decide where you're putting your energy and time. You don't have to be focusing on these things that you don't like. You can focus on the things that you enjoy and love and are passionate about, and your goals and all the things that you value.
And I'll throw out another layer to that. You might not be good at it right away, right? Like, oftentimes, I see this with meditation. People will be like, oh, well, I tried meditating once, but I really sucked at it, so I'm not going to do it again. And it's like, well, I don't know if anybody's really good at meditation the first time they try it. You can hone that skill. You can develop that skill. You can sit with the fact that you suck at meditation initially, but you're going to do it anyway. And you can continue to practice that. And similarly, like, you might not be super skilled at directing your attention initially. You might focus on that lady's shirt for a nanosecond and then right back to your bloating. But what is it? was it Buddha or somebody said the mind is like 10,000 monkeys on a leash. Like you keep redirecting the monkeys. You
Correct,
keep
yes.
pulling them the direction that you want to go, and you don't let the monkeys run you all over town.
Which ironically is what meditation is for. Like you're not supposed to be good at meditation. Meditation is the exercise, like the machine at the gym, that helps you get better at maintaining focus and attention on where you want it to be. A lot of people in the anxiety world too are like, so I tried meditation, it didn't work. Made my symptoms worse, made me have more thoughts. I tried meditating to clear my head. I tried meditating to meditate it away. I tried meditating to calm myself down. That's not what meditation is for. Meditation is learning how to be still while everything else still happens, and you have the ability to direct and maintain your focus and attention to where you want it to be, not to feel better, not to clear your head. Like, here's meditation. If I hold this, and if I hold this, okay, so look at this. Now look at this. Now look at them both at the same time. You can't, right? So the focus of your 5-minute meditation will be, it's usually about the breath, because everybody freaking has a breath. Nobody has an upside down octopus, right? So we're going to focus. Well, not everybody has an upside down octopus. We're going to focus on this. And as should other things come up and catch my attention, I'm going to notice it, give it a nod, and gently redirect my attention back to this for the sake of growing like my little wimpy redirection muscle, not for the sake of only looking at this and not looking at this. You know, this is like the muscle we build. It's like a rep in the gym that I kind of want to get distracted so I can go, oh, I see that. Like, oh, you're showing me that? Oh, I see that. Thanks. And then this gets better. You stay here longer, and you stay here for longer periods of time. That's the goal of meditation.
Yeah, that's the point. That's why you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well,
and perfectionism comes in there too, of having to do everything perfect and just right. And that's something that should be in the DSM. Perfectionism is more of the disorder than what you're trying to be perfect about. And so it's learning how to like change black and white thinking, that must or else mindset. Perfectionism goes into all realms of life. And with that must or else approach, this guy's going to show up for it.
Yeah.
I feel like we could easily talk to you for 57 hours.
Sorry, I also have I don't know when to stop talking problem.
No, it's
you're
a
perfect.
good thing to have. I do want to be mindful of your time, though, because I know you have another appointment that you'll need to get to sort of shortly. So as much as it breaks my heart, I think we have to wrap up here. But perhaps we could invite you back for a part 2 one of these days. And
absolutely, I'd love
that
to.
Could be fun. I feel like we have a lot to flesh out, and it's all so applicable to the people who listen to this podcast. I really hope that they took a lot away. Can you remind the folks at home, what is the best place to find you? Now, I know you said Dare has an app and a YouTube channel, and maybe is on Instagram as well. And then you have your own personal Instagram, right? Can you
I have my personal Instagram is called The Anxiety Paradox. So I'll put my content up there, and then we'll take bits and pieces from that content. We'll share it on the Dare pages. I work for Dare also, right? I'm one of the clinical advisors, and I'm a coach there. We have programs like a Dare Academy program that you walk through different steps of, right? Like gathering information and implementing information. And we have an app that you can get from the App Store.
And remind me, what does the acronym DARE stand for?
Diffuse, allow, run towards, engage. It's kind of like, so here's the thing, and I become embattled with the thing, and dare. So here, I'll pick this up instead. This is on one of the YouTube videos I have on the Dare channel. Most anxiety disorders are somebody is fighting, oh my God, Michelle, my thoughts. Oh my gosh, I'm struggling with my sensations. I can't deal with my feelings. What ifs, memories, okay? This is usually what prompts a call or creates I'm having anxiety because of this. This is really not the problem, okay? This is the problem. You like that? You like
are
that,
full
right?
of surprises.
I know.
People, if you're not on the YouTube version of this episode, you are missing out. If you're
Oh, I'm
listening
sorry. I
to
forgot
audio
this.
only.
It's just a podcast too, without the video.
No, it's
Well,
not.
no,
No. Now
we
they
have
have
a-
to go to YouTube and watch it again.
So dare is for, see, now it's the fight of the wrong things. Anxiety lives here when we're cranking out fight, but the fight has no place to go. It's like turning on the heat in your house and opening the window. So it's super useful energy, but you're not using it properly. So dare, you're here to diffuse the fight of. You accept and allow these things because they're safe. Run towards are. I can have even more of these things. I can have thoughts all day long and be bothered about them all day long. I save my fight for danger. And then E, engage. So I don't need to stay maintaining focus and involvement here. I can if I want to, but I like that better, or that's more important, or those are my kids playing in the playground. So while I have these thoughts, feelings, and sensations, I kind of like give it a nod, go back to life, and I re-engage in life. It's like less work on, like, I don't want you to do, this is not a work hard sort of thing. It's almost like a do less type approach.
I love that so much. You blew my mind when you accordioned out the piece of paper.
It was from my daughter's kindergarten art class during COVID when we had to do art class from home. They made these monsters like this, and when they opened it, their mouth opened up. And I was like,
Oh man.
their thing with that.
Oh, well, again, it breaks my heart that we have to wrap up this episode and get you to your next thing because I feel like you're full of other surprises potentially.
Oh, I got
but
them all around. Yeah.
I'm going to have to stalk you with great admiration from the internet. And we just learned recently that we're in the same area. We're both outside of Raleigh. So we totally
we'll
have to get
go meet
together.
for lunch.
I'm going to declare that. Amy, do you have any final words you want to bring us out as the MC of this episode?
No, I'm super happy Michelle was able to come on, and definitely follow her Instagram. I'm a huge fan. I think the creativity you'd had with that accordion is like on the Instagram as well with a lot of her content, and it always makes me laugh and is fun. So definitely check her out. But yeah, I'm just super glad we were able to have her on. And yeah, until next time, that's a wrap.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'd love to come back.
Yes.